started.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate you joining us on this end of summer call. Good afternoon. Welcome to our semi-weekly Zoom call. This is our 16th call to give you an update on how we're responding to the needs of our programs and all of their clients during the pandemic. As you, I'm sure, are all too well aware now, I'm Peter Keller. I lead our board. Again, we thank you for joining us. I missed last week's call. I was on vacation and missed the chance to catch up with everyone. Today, we want to step back a little bit and focus on what we've learned and how we've learned things in the last 5.5 months of the pandemic, and how all the things we've learned are going to influence the operations of Episcopal Charities going forward. It's been a very challenging time, but we've also learned a lot about ways to streamline operations, about ways to interact with people. You've heard us speak about the large increases in demand for food at the pantries and other feeding programs we support. We spent less time talking about some of the operational challenges that programs have faced as a result of the disruption in the supply chain for food. Many of our programs serve very localized communities. Many of them are not members of the regional food bank, and that means they're typically dependent on a food wholesaler to supply food and other supplies to support their programs. While many of us can relate to the disruption in the supply chain for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, there have been similar disruptions and ripples in the supply chain for food. You may not have noticed this as a problem in your grocery store because most retail outlets have large buying power, have contracts in place with food wholesalers, and they have commitments for minimum fulfillment requirements. As a result, in crises like the current one, when food wholesalers have restricted supplies, the access for small food pantries and feeding programs are the ones to suffer the most. And those, of course, are just critical avenues to feed the hungry amongst us. In response to the lack of availability from food wholesalers, food pantries and other programs have begun to scour retail outlets to try to piece together the items that they need, often finding that they're getting lesser quality and paying a higher price so that they can feed their clientele. This ultimately impacts others in the community, leading to continued shortages for a wider swath of the local community. This is a really tough and not a desirable situation. When we became aware of this ongoing problem, our program staff went to work doing research on how we could help resolve this dilemma. Today, we want to share with you some details on a new initiative at Episcopal Charities that seeks to address this problem and that will help our programs decrease their food costs and increase their food quality at the same time. Let me turn it over to Patrick Bergquist, our program director, to give you some more details.
Great. Thanks so much, Peter. Peter began his comments by talking about how we learn things at Episcopal Charities and what we're actually learning. And that how we're learning things is really, really important and something that I think has become significant to our work in the program office. How we learn about what's going on is we talk to our programs. We have weekly calls, we send out surveys, we do individual calls. The number of hours that SK and myself spend on Zoom platforms just like this, talking to leaders all over the diocese is significant. And so we want to make sure as an organization that we are listening to what's happening so that we're not imposing solutions to problems they're not having. We want the issues to come up so that we can meet those needs and not project what we think their needs might be. And so one of the things that kind of came up was this idea of not being able to get certain kinds of food. We understand the food banks, which have been kind of the main place for so many of our programs to get cheap food and consistent, has been entirely inconsistent throughout the pandemic. The system was just overloaded and so struggled to keep up with demand. So a program may have been used to be going to the food bank for certain items, but for weeks or months at a time, those items weren't available. So in order to meet the real basic needs of their clients of their program, they were literally going out to food distributors, wholesalers. I know of programs that were going around neighborhoods and stopping at every Dollar General store because that's where they could find the cheapest shelf-stable milk. So we would have volunteers going out to 9 or 10 different places around trying to get milk for the food pantry. Now, that's not a great way to go. It's also difficult for the people in those local neighborhoods who now can't get milk at the dollar store because we purchased it. So we begin to get this information in. So what did we do with it? What we decided to do was to reach out and set up a relationship with one of those major wholesalers. Because at Episcopal Charities, we would be looking at purchasing significant amounts of food in a given month for several different programs, our costs drop down significantly. So we can get a much better deal than any of our individual programs can do on their own. So with this relationship, we then began looking out and trying to figure out what's needed. Well, we found out some really interesting things, that different programs needed different things. A program in Manhattan that has a large Asian population, they were looking for rice noodles and cooking oil. They couldn't get them. A program in the Hudson Valley, I was on a call and they said, Patrick, do you know what Maseca corn flour is? And I said, I have no idea. And it's a particular kind of corn flour that the Guatemalan population uses. And they serve a large Guatemalan population at this particular pantry. And he said, Patrick, we can't get it. And whenever we can find it, it's so expensive, we can't afford it. So because we've built this relationship with the distributor, we can go to them and say, we're going to set up recurring orders. And they're going to be delivered to these different pantries. And instead of the bill also going to those pantries, the bill will come to Episcopal Charities. We'll take care of the administrative legwork to take that burden off of programs, and we'll finance it. So what this means is we created kind of a customized list of food items that were most needed and that met a certain objective. We wanted them to be healthy, and we wanted these items to be things that they couldn't get or wouldn't be able to afford to get on their own. So we're not doing cans of soup in these orders. Our objective is, in the coming months, we will likely purchase 1,000 cartons of eggs and distribute those to certain programs. Episcopal Charities will purchase 12,000 eggs and get them out into the Diocese of New York. So these are things that we hope are kind of bonus items for pantries, so that we can get these high quality proteins and these items that are hard to come by, like the Maseca flour or the rice noodles, those kinds of things. So again, this bulk buying program, what we're hoping to do, we've set a small number of programs that we will likely do the first order for next week. Right now we're in conversation with all these programs, this small pilot group, to get their orders and to see what they need, because each pantry serves different communities. And so their needs are slightly different. So it's not a one size fits all that comes on top, but again, we're responding from the bottom up to the issues that are coming up. So we're gonna pilot this. We're gonna see what we can do. We think this is a really cost-effective way of getting nutritious foods into the community in a quick way, in an efficient way, and like I said, a really cost-effective way. So we're extremely grateful for all of those who are giving contributions to us, because we're gonna go buy eggs with them. We're gonna get chicken and Maseca flour. So thanks, Peter, that's all I've got.
Thanks for sharing, Patrick. I mean, it's really exciting, and this is one of those, sometimes hard to find silver linings of COVID, is that we will have a better and more efficient organization when this is all done. We're going to streamline operations. We're going to be able to do more for our program directors and the people they serve. Now, all I have to do is go check out the recipes for Maseca flour. As an update, I think you all are aware that we have got a special emergency fund for COVID-related issues. And through the last meeting of our COVID grants committee, we provided grants to 29 different programs. Some of these programs have come back more than once as their needs have grown and as the community community issues have become more severe. We've now granted over $330,000, and we continue to meet weekly. We've got a small committee that meets weekly to evaluate new requests and applications as they come in. And so again, I encourage any of you out there, if you are aware of programs that are either not able to operate as they'd like to, or that are really having stresses, let them know that we are here to help, both in terms of providing consulting advice and in terms of additional funding. We've raised a significant amount of money. Our goal is to get it out into the field. We're dedicated to the ongoing work of our outreach programs during the pandemic. We're well aware that so many in our community are really, really in need, and we're going to continue to look for innovative solutions to these challenges and find a way to help more people out there. We're really extraordinarily thankful. We say this every other week, but we're really thankful for everyone out there who's helped us in this work. Whether you've contributed to our relief fund or our general fund, whether you've volunteered time or sewn masks for programs that need PPE, we certainly couldn't do what we're doing without the levels of support that we've seen from so many of you out there, and we thank you. The need continues in all of these areas, and if you're able to help, I know, and we encourage you to, psychologically, this has been a tough several months. And, one of the ways that I think you can help lift your own spirits and stay positive is to re-engage, to consider volunteering. It's incredibly inspiring to see what our program directors and what the volunteers are doing in their communities. Programs across our diocese continue to need extra hands to help serve because there is some volunteer fatigue. As we've mentioned before, some of the programs have volunteers who are, sort of at my end of the age spectrum, which makes them at higher risk. So we're always looking for more volunteers to make certain that we can serve people out there. It's a great way to support the programs, and also a great way to show to the clients of those programs that there are people out there who really care about them and care about their hardships. Details on donating, on volunteering can be found on our website, which is ec-ny.org. And if you get to our website, you'll see a pretty visible COVID-19 drop-down menu, which will give you options on ways you can help out. At this point, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. SK, do we have any people in queue?
I don't see, excuse me, any questions here on Zoom. Let me just pop over and check the Facebook. And no questions there either.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for dialing in. Thanks for your continued interest in what we're doing. I hope everybody has a very safe and enjoyable Labor Day. It's been a very strange summer, but I hope that you can relax a little bit over the long weekend. I'll remind you that our next call will be in 2 weeks on Wednesday, September 16th. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy the last weekend of summer. Thanks.
Yeah.